I'm here to do a TED Talk, a TEDx presentation, which means I've committed myself to the #1 ranked most frightening experience known in Western civilization. Believe me, every single negative thought imaginable is going through my head. And on the inside, every bit of me feels like this. Oh, you get it, don't you? Yes, indeed. The face of stark terror. Mouth is slack, eyes are wide. Woo. And you understand it. But how? How on earth did that happen? How was a group of squiggles like this that I did show an idea from inside of my head that bridged all the way over and inside of yours? Well, you could say, oh, well, we have been taught to interpret these things. Teaching, kind of like literacy. Oh, I might disagree with that. You know, we could go back a few hundred years to when Leonardo da Vinci drew grotesques. They were called cartoons then. People got it even if they could or couldn't read. We could go back even further to the 1st century in Pompeii when people were scribbling graffiti on the walls. Everybody got it then, too. Let's back it even further, 20,000, 30,000 years into the cave ceilings of Altamira, Spain and Lascaux, France. People understood those scribbles. In fact, you could go back up to 700,000 years, caves in India where some human made their mark. So I would say that that's something human about us, that drive to make a mark so others would understand you. You look at these marks and you get it. You could say you get it because of the great artistic talent you're seeing. But if you did, I'd think maybe you were channeling my grandmother. No, actually it doesn't have nearly as much to do with teaching or talent as it has to do with science. Now, the sciences, and I'm going to scoot math in there under that umbrella. The sciences give structure to everything we understand, including the arts. The arts, in turn, give meaning to everything we understand, including the sciences. Together, they become two sides of the same coin. I look at them as if bones and flesh integrate perfectly together to create a body of knowledge that we humans have. And that body, when the bones and the flesh are working together, it's able to spring and stand. It can grow and stretch. It can move forward. It's alive. It's animated. And the best way to explain that might be through character design. Regardless of where an artist begins when they're coming up with a character, the most important piece is usually a face. Now, we humans, we are hardwired to look at faces. They are super important to us. Faces will tell us a number of things that help us survive when we look at another. We have almost a formula in our minds, a geometric interpretation that we will do when we look at a face. In science as well as in art, form follows function. Embryologically, as we develop, those forms take shape as a face grows up and around the tube that becomes a mouth. And we will study those forms to see how that character might survive. Since it's so close to a mouth, that first part of survival might have to do with diet. Now, I'm not real fond of the word diet because it starts with the word die, and it certainly feels like that sometimes. But when it comes to nutrition, usually an organized mass of cells has to end so that another organized mass of cells can thrive. And this happens across the board. So let's take you back to those caves I mentioned earlier. Let's go back to where you are living in one. You're hungry. You have to leave your cave. You want to search for food. There in the jungle, you look around and a twig snaps nearby. You look and freeze, and you see a set of eyes. These eyes are large. They're set way far apart. Here, we're going to put some eyes up here looking at you. In fact, they are ovals that are more vertical than horizontal in the weight. Set far apart, set shallow, they may have long, thick lashes on them. You freeze and carefully watch as the rest of a face emerges. Below those eyes, you notice the nose and a mouth. You study that mouth. The lips will be really thick and flexible, strong, soft, large. You will notice that if the lips were to curl back, this animal could easily show you very flat, thick teeth. Really good for doing something like plucking tree limbs and branches and leaves. You're looking at the face of an herbivore. You relax. Although herbivores can certainly hurt you, there's no doubt about that, they are not there to eat you. Their eyes are set way far apart so that they can have peripheral vision. Herbivores need to be on the lookout because they don't know what's going to happen next. I think of their eye placement on each side of their face as always on the lookout for problems. They are problem seekers. But let's do another scenario here. You've left your cave. You're looking for food. A twig snaps nearby. You look through the foliage and you see a pair of eyes whose ovals are set more horizontal, staring at you. They are close together in a face, sometimes shaded and deep set. You freeze. Every molecule in your body goes on red alert because a face emerges and you realize you are looking at the face of a carnivore. This animal is going to have a mouth that has thin and stiff lips beneath its nose. Those lips will be covering teeth, and it takes every facial muscle to peel them back and away so that those teeth reveal very sharp, pointy canines that are really good at tearing into flesh and ripping it off. These are solution-seeking eyes, and you could easily be a solution. Now, cartoonists do things like this when they're going to draw a character. What they will often do is play with these standards in order to invent something. They often will take one set of traits from one animal and move it to another in order to get you to feel a certain way or respond a certain way, such as Disney in Spirit. In the movie Spirit, he's got a horse that is strong and independent. So the caricature artists moved his eyes closer together in his face and gave him heavy brows so that whenever he's thinking, those brows go down and that oval goes out horizontally. On the other hand, you want to read a good night story to your kids, you pick up Clifford the big red dog who's got vertically round eyes, googly eyes, and when he smiles, he has no teeth. So he's hardly going to be a threat, even though he's a carnivore. But if we're going to move any further down the line, we need to ask about us, omnivores. So looking at that, I would say we begin herbivorously and we move around to carnivores as we evolve. So let's start with babies. Oh, babies. They are so cute. Basically, we mammals, we come out kind of half-baked. And people ooh and awe when they see little faces. The half-baked side, pretty much for all mammals, but mostly for humans, means that certain areas of the body are a lot more developed than others. Babies come out with their eyes about 70% of adult size. On the other end of the stick, brains are only about 25% of how big they're going to be as an adult. Babies' eyes, since they're 70%, need plenty of room to continue growing. And the brain will need to grow up and out to each side. Cartilage isn't that necessary at first, so not that much has been laid down, little button noses. But lips will be moochy and coochie-coo, round and soft, making all sorts of flexible signs and shapes because they have no teeth to stretch them out and make them look flat. So basically, babies look a lot more like herbivores. Here we go, which is handy because we don't feel threatened. If a cartoonist is going to draw a baby, it's one head high to 4 parts. So a baby's going to be small, awkward, top-heavy, and something we really can't keep our hands off of, but no threat unless you want a good night's sleep. However, let's fast forward. When a cartoonist or any artist is going to draw a small child, they may be 1 to 5 or 1 to 6 heads high. And kids, for the most part, look a lot alike. We depend on how to identify them, boys or girls, usually by their clothing and behavior and haircuts. Their faces look a lot alike. They go through one set of teeth, and that jawbone grows. They start going through another, and then you hit this awkward time called adolescence. And that's when hormones kick in and do a whole lot. So let's look at a young man. Those hormones are flooding the system. They are going to cause darker, thicker, coarser hair if you are at all fair-haired. And all sorts of cartilage and muscle masses start getting laid down. So a neck will thicken, ears look larger, and eyebrows start to show. One of the first things that a young man is going to do when facial hair gets dark and starts showing up, he is going to let that little mustache grow. We always see that on guys in their late teens. And remember, cartilage kicks in, so a nose gets even larger and longer. Jaw muscles, and you've got someone well on the way to adulthood. On the other hand, young ladies, hair gets thicker, hair gets darker. And the age, what I call the age of contrast, is when everybody has really defined features, unlike when they're kids. Young women usually shape their brows. And a sign of beauty that's pretty much cross-cultural will often be symmetry of the face. It kind of puts you into the hot tub end of the gene pool for the opposite sex. Interestingly, though, what young women will do is they paint on anything they can to not only make their faces more symmetrical, but they will often color their lips and their cheeks much different shades, signs of sexual readiness. Once again, it's all about procreation and survival of the species. And they will do everything they can to make their eyes look larger and further apart with long, thick lashes. You don't hear many cosmetic companies saying, making your eyes look beadier, smaller, and closer together. That just doesn't seem to happen much at all, does it? Maybe they do that so they're a little bit less threatening to the guys. Who knows? The third stage, as far as being omnivorous and therefore symmetry, making you attractive, procreation of the species, comes towards the end. As we age, gravity takes over. With any luck at all, that brain has gotten a whole lot bigger, although there are some that make me question that. So this skull now houses something about 4 times this size. The cartilage that was laid down in youth has not died, but it has been taken over by gravitational pull, so it looks longer and larger, such as the area of a nose. Tissue breaks down, and eyes that were once round become hooded and deep set from wrinkles. Unfortunately, wrinkles show up pretty much everywhere. And if you look closely as we age, those marionette lines appear as all the folds in our faces start to pull down from the cheeks. Mouths curve over, lips lose color, they look thin. Gums recede, teeth start to look like they're longer, and ultimately we end up looking far more carnivorous than when we began. If you think a minute about our culture, we even give attributes of animals to people. If you want someone to seem innocent, oh, you little lamb. You want someone to be unknowing, startled like a deer in the headlights, or maybe foolish, what a jackass. You want someone who has figured something out, who has been a solution seeker in a positive or a negative way. Oh, he truly was lion-hearted. Then you look at another who might say, he weaseled his way in. So you use these terms from carnivores and herbivores to address character traits as well as when you draw them. The next time you are watching a cartoon, whether it's a 3D video or maybe Roadrunner going, me, me, remember that and ask yourself a little bit, what was I seeing? How did I interpret that? What does that mean to me, and why am I responding? Whether it's Roadrunner or maybe Dobby dying in Harry Potter's arms. Goodbye, Harry Potter, and you're teared up. Think of the response we have when we see things like that. And let animation animate you. Thank you.